Welcome to the Getting Started with Google Forms session. I'm Michael Habermel, and I teach at Three Valleys Public School. Co-presenting with me is Al Karim from Kipling Collegiate Institute. We are DLL teachers with the Toronto District School Board. We will be presenting on how to get started with Google Forms and some of the key features for you and your students. Please click on the bit.ly above and make a copy of this slide deck for your own reference and learning. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge that we are hosted on the lands of the Mississaugas of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Our session will consist of 3 parts. First, a Minds On to introduce the framework in which we'll be presenting Google Forms, as well how to access Google Forms both within and outside the TDSB network. Next, we'll be spending most of our time focusing on a guided learning opportunity using Google Forms. And finally, we'll provide you with some practical uses of Google Forms for your classroom. We want you to know that the digital lead learners and global competencies and STEM departments are here to support the educational use of technology within the TDSB. A little bit more about digital lead learners, or DLLs. The program is designed to build teacher capacity in the areas of digital learning technologies, teaching and learning to support the inclusion, develop global competencies, and improve learning outcomes for all students. It is made up of 300 volunteer educators, elementary and secondary, who are interested in technology-embedded pedagogy. These DLL educators engage in professional learning and also support our system through learning networks, lunch and learns, and workshops. The DLL website has lots of resources to support teachers using technology in education. After-school workshop materials, tech-enhanced learning ideas, DLL profiles are all linked in the website. It's a very useful website, and I highly encourage that you give it a visit. And I'm not just saying that because I have some material posted there. Next, I want to establish the framework that we'll be using to discuss Google Forms and all TDSB supported educational technology. So linked above is the TDSB and ISTE standards. The standards are provided as a way to inform your use of technology in the classroom. The document contains planning guides, curriculum integration ideas, skills continuums. As educators, students are at the center of everything we do. We know the world is interconnected and constantly changing, and the ISTE standards for students describe the skills and knowledge our students will need to thrive, grow, and contribute in a global society. As educators, we have always held the key to student success, but our role continues to change. The ISTE standards for educators defines the digital age skills and pedagogical insights we need as educators to teach, to work, and to learn. So how are we currently using technologies in our classrooms? We can reflect on this by using the SAMR model. The SAMR model provides a framework for educators to design rich learning experiences using technology that lead to high levels of achievements for our students, which is ultimately our goals. The SAMR model encourages educators to think about the way technology is being used in a task and moves technology enhancing teaching and learning from substitution and augmentation to transformation, to transforming teaching and learning to modification and redefinition. Regardless of the current use of technology, this model challenges us as educators and allows us to self-assess and seek new ways for us to use technology in transformational ways. So I strongly encourage you watch the video linked above. It explains the SAMR model in a really helpful way, and it will provide you and your students with opportunities to redefine learning in your classroom. Next, I want to discuss the importance of the TDSB Global Competencies Framework, which includes critical thinking and problem solving, global citizenship and character, communication, collaboration and leadership, creativity, inquiry, and entrepreneurship. We know there's an urgency for educational innovation more than ever. This innovation is spurred by rapid economic, environmental, and societal changes. Global competencies is an important part of our vision for learning and support 21st century outcomes or skills for graduating students. In our vision for learning, digital fluency at TDSB has equal importance to literacy and numeracy. As we transform student learning, we should consider these important ideas. Beginning in the early years, we must embed global competencies in all learning. As part of the TDSB's multi-year strategic plan, we recognize that global competencies is not a standalone initiative, not a try one thing. Instead, it's a foundation, much like equity, anti-racism, and anti-oppression. As educators, we need to nurture positive relationships and cultivate environments that demand high academic rigor and high expectations from all of our students, irrespective of their social identities. As educators, we become co-learners in a community of learners, guiding our students, supporting them and making connections between what they are learning in the curriculum, connecting what they are learning driven by their own interests beyond the classroom walls to tackle complex real-life issues. We will use technology thoughtfully to ensure that students develop both digital fluency and the ability to build healthy relationships with their classmates and adults. So as we reflect on how we use technologies in our classroom, we should also reflect on why we use technologies to enhance inclusive design and deep learning opportunities for our students. At the core of our instruction, we must use a critical equity lens. So what is inclusive design? Kevin Bradbeer explains. Inclusive design provides a way to challenge persistent gaps faced by marginalized students while holding high expectations for all. It simultaneously supports innovation, creativity, global citizenship, and helps students use their learning to change themselves in the world. It uses an integration design approach that is tied to the school improvement process so that measuring and monitoring can occur. And at the core of inclusive design is an anti-oppressive approach that encourages educators to think about the impact of their actions and whether or not the structures are supporting or hurting students. Most importantly, it encourages us to understand the necessity of equity as leadership competency necessary to drive student achievement and well-being. So now that we've discussed the importance of why we use technologies to transform learning, let me ask you, what have you been using to create and share surveys, quizzes, minds-on activities, and assessments? Do you use paper and pencil tasks? Do you use third-party tools that are not TDSB protected? Are you aware of how data is stored and protected? Are you aware of the potential consequences? It is important to be aware of the risk of external tools, especially as we collect student data and voice. It is for all these reasons that we are recommending the use of Google Forms for professional use. So now that we are aware of how Google Forms is protected by the TDSB, we can begin to discuss key terms and some of the really great features it has to offer. So when we talk about Google Apps for Education, we're really talking about a group of online tools now referred to as the G Suite apps. And apps is just a short form for applications. So when we think of Google Apps in a similar way to Microsoft Office programs, but the only difference is Google Apps are web-based and therefore not installed to a specific computer. Instead, they are cloud-based, which is just a network of Google data houses, and the cloud requires internet connectivity, which, as we know, is a bit of a concern for some students and schools. But with that internet connectivity also opens up collaboration options. The iCloud, as you've probably heard, as well as the Google Drive, which would be similar to an iCloud or like a hard drive, but it's where you are storing and accessing files that you can share using the Google Apps for Education. So Google Apps are similar to Microsoft Office programs, and here you can check out the list to see how some of the apps would maybe connect to other programs you might be familiar with. So how do I access Google Forms? At the TDSB, teachers and students can access Google Apps for Education through their academic workspace or Gmail linked to TDSB AW. On a TDSB computer, what you do is click the AW icon, or in some cases, it might be installed right into Chrome. From home, you'd open Chrome and go to aw.tdsb.on.ca. And there you'll log in with your TDSB username and password. Just to give you an idea of what that looks like on the AW site, you can see under the heading Google Apps, you'll then click on Google Drive, and under Google Drive, under New, you'll have the option for Google Forms. You can also do a Google search for forms and then enter your TDSB credentials. Okay, so what are Google Forms? Well, Google Forms are online questionnaires that can be as simple or as complicated as you like. Forms can consist of single questions or hundreds of questions in various formats. Really depends on how you want to use them. For teachers who are using Google Classroom, Google Forms are easily integrated into Google Classroom. And this can be really helpful if you're creating Minds On or exit cards, rubrics, behavior, learning skills, quizzes, assignments, digital breakouts. You can embed a Google form as part of an assignment right into your Google Classroom. Don't know the how and what of Google Forms? Well, that's where we're hoping to give you some more direction. So it's time to choose your learning path. Afterward, I highly encourage you to try the independent getting started and also the independent going deeper activities that are linked below. Remember, by making a copy of the slide deck, which you did on the first slide, hopefully, but if not, I still encourage you to make a copy of the slide deck so you can return to those independent activities at any time. And next, Al is going to present the guided learning path that discusses creating a Google form and examples of how Google Forms can be used with your students.
Thanks, Michael. Now let's look at creating a form. The easiest way to create a form is to start in your Google Drive, navigate to a folder where you want to create the form, click New, and then select Google Forms. Alternatively, some cool shortcuts to create a new form include going into your Google Drive and pressing Shift-O at the same time, or from any Chrome browser tab, type forms.new or form.new in the address bar. Forms can be created from the Google Forms interface. You can create a blank form or choose from the different pre-existing templates. We'll look at creating a blank form. Click the heading to rename the file, click the title to rename the form, and the menu on the right side will be used to create the form. Taking a closer look at the menu, here is a legend which shows what can be done. Add a question, import a question, add a title and description, add an image or video, and separate the questions into different sections. Add a picture in the header, or to change the color, click the easel. You'll be able to now change the colors or font, or add a header image. Note that the header image needs to be between 800 by 200 and 5000 by 5000 pixels, and it can be a GIF file. Let's look at what types of questions are available. For example, you can have short answer, paragraph, multiple choice, checkboxes, amongst many other types of questions. Add a question, click the plus symbol. By default, it will be a multiple choice question. Change the type of question by clicking the pull-down menu. Each question has a title, which is where you will type your question. Add more information to the questions, click the More Actions menu, which are the three vertical dots, and choose Description. A section below the title will appear where more information can be added. If you want to ensure a user does not skip a particular question, use the Required Question switch. all questions with the switch turned on must have an entry before the user can submit the form. You can import questions from more than one form. To reuse questions from another form, click Import Questions. Choose the form with the questions as you want to reuse and a box will open on the right. Select the questions to use and click Import Questions. Short answer questions have a small text box where information like names, email addresses, phone numbers, or other small bits of information may be collected. To add a text question, click the Add Question icon and select Short Answer from the question menu. Response validation allows you to set requirements for your user's responses. For example, if collecting email addresses, or a particular word or number, or even a specific expression. To set response validation, click the More button, which are the 3 vertical dots, and select Response Validation. Once Response Validation is clicked, more options will show up. For example, to collect email addresses, choose Text under the first drop-down menu, choose Email under the second drop-down menu, and create a custom error message to clarify the type of information required. Response validation only accepts exactly the information you need for a particular question. Another cool feature is that you can add a password so that only certain students can use this form. For example, you might want to make this a quiz. If you want to go super advanced, there are wildcard notations available in the notes section of this presentation. To spruce things up, you may want to add an image to a question. To do so, click on the image icon in the toolbar. Another window will open where you can select the image or drag and drop the image file. The image can be titled, and using the More button, align, change, or remove the image. If you want to add a video, click on the play button icon. Another window will appear where you can either search YouTube or paste the URL of a video you have previously found. If you decide to search YouTube, you can preview the video in the search before inserting it by clicking on the video in the search results. Add a title to the video and use the More button at the top left of the video to align, change, or remove the video. Now let's take a look at multiple choice and checkbox questions. For multiple choice, only one answer can be selected by a respondent, whereas for checkbox questions, more than one answer can be selected. So it's up to you to decide which type of question you would like to put in your form. If you'd like, you can even shuffle the order of the options for both multiple choice and checkbox questions. Should you want users to submit files, you can allow them to upload files to your Google Drive. You can even limit the type of file to a PDF or a Word doc, for example. Files are stored in a subfolder where you created and saved the form. Perhaps you're finding that your Google form is too long. In that case, you may want to break up the form or a long form by adding sections. Think of a section in a form like a page break in a document. To create sections, click on the section icon. With sections, you can provide options to skip a section, go to a specific section, or submit the form based on a response from a multiple choice question, for example. You want to see what the form looks like and feels like from a respondent's perspective? To preview the form, click on the icon that looks like an eye at the top of the form. This will allow you to check the formatting, test the features, and fill out the form from a respondent's perspective. After seeing the preview, you may want to go back and make changes to the form. Some useful and important points about collaborating in Google Forms include the collaboration feature in Google Forms allows you to work quickly and easily with others to create and edit forms. Collaborating on forms is an easy way for teams to work together on creating or editing. Changes made by one person are immediately shown to all other collaborators. Unlike other Google apps, there is no revision history in Forms. And another important note, there is a difference between sharing the link for a respondent to fill in the form and sharing the link to collaborate. To add collaborators, click the More Actions button at the top and select Add Collaborators. Type the name or email of the person with whom you want to collaborate. Each form can have up to 50 collaborators. Under the owner settings at the bottom, you can increase security of the form to prevent editors from changing access and adding new people. Once you're done adding collaborators, click on the Send button to send the invitation. We just showed you how to add collaborators in terms of creating the form, which is different from publishing the form where users would fill out and submit the form. Before publishing the form, set up any restrictions by clicking on Settings. A window will open where restrictions can be made. In this window, check any of the restrictions required for the form. For example, collect email addresses, require a user to sign in, or only allow TDSB users to complete the form. Completed forms can be sent out in several different ways, via email, social media, through a website, or as a web link, which I'll show you next. Publish a form via email, click on the Send button. A window will appear where you will click the envelope icon to send the form via email. Then click in the To field and enter the recipient's email addresses. Add a subject and a message, and when ready, click the Send button to send the email. Publish a form via social media, click on the Send button. A window will appear where you will click on the icon for the social network where the form will be shared. For each social network, a new window will open where you can log in and edit a message before posting. Google Forms can be embedded into a website or a blog. To publish a form on a website or a blog, click the Send button and then the Embed button. The HTML code shown can be used to embed the form in another website's HTML. Click the Copy button to copy the HTML code to the clipboard, then paste the HTML code into your website. Alter the size of your embedded form by changing the values in the text boxes shown. Publish a form via a web link, click on the Send button, and then click on the web link icon. The URL that appears will be long, so click the checkbox Shorten URL to do just that. Finally, click the Copy button to copy the URL to the clipboard. Now that you've sent out your form and respondents have completed the form, you want to look at the data they've submitted. To view the responses, click on the responses at the top. For each of the responses, data can be seen in a variety of ways, individually, by user, or in aggregate as a graph for the group. Another powerful way to analyze responses is to export them to a spreadsheet by clicking on the Sheets icon. Here's an example of the Google Sheets attached to the form, capturing the respondents' responses. In Sheets, you can review and analyze the data, sort the data, and much more. Google Forms responses can be downloaded as comma-separated values file, also known as a CSV file. Downloading responses as a CSV allows you to use the data with applications such as Excel, for example. First, click on the responses link. Second, click the More Actions button. And third, select Download Responses. All forms default to accept responses once the form has been created. To control the availability of the completed form, click on the Responses and then toggle the Accepting Responses switch. When the switch is turned off, the user will get a default message that the form is not accepting responses, or you can customize this message. If you want to delete historical responses and start fresh, click on the Responses tab, then click on the More Action button, and finally, click the Delete All Responses and press OK in the window that appears. Google has also launched Locked Mode as a way to secure quizzes created in Google Forms. With Lock Mode turned on, a teacher can lock a form so that students on managed Chromebooks cannot navigate away from the quiz until they submit their work. And now over to Michael on how to create quizzes.
Thank you, Al. Now that you've had a chance to create various types of Google Forms, I would like to show you how you can create quizzes using Google Forms. There are many benefits to creating quizzes, including automatic feedback for your students and easy integration into Google Classroom. This can be a really valuable feature for both students and teachers. Let's get started. To create a quiz, first select the menu icon. Next, click on Quizzes under Settings. Lastly, click on the button Make this a quiz to open the various quiz features. As I stated before, Google Forms can be designed as a quiz and can provide students with immediate feedback. This is an amazing feature when we think about student engagement and the value of descriptive feedback. Feedback can be offered for both correct and incorrect questions. Feedback can also come in the form as a helpful link, a YouTube video, encouraging words, or hints. First, click on the Answer Key option to select a correct answer. Next, attach a point value to that correct answer. Lastly, you can add feedback for both incorrect answers or correct answers. You can also set up your quiz to provide feedback to short answer questions. In this case, you'll need to enter a list of possible correct answers so Google Forms can provide the student with the appropriate response. In other situations, you may not want your quiz to automatically provide feedback. In this case, you can set up the quiz so that the feedback is manually entered by the teacher and provided to the student at a later time. This option still allows students to take advantage of digital tools like Read and Write Gold as they enter their answers into a Google form. It also allows the teacher to access student answers in one place. Finally, the teacher can provide individualized and meaningful feedback in a way that utilizes digital tools. To make this adjustment for your quiz, first click Settings. Next, go to the Release Grade section and click on Later after Manual Review. Just a quick warning, once you have set your Google form to quiz mode, do not switch it on and off because it will delete the settings you've created, including values, correct responses, and auto-generated feedback. Next, I will take you through some different question formats you can add to your quizzes. You can select different types of questions from the scroll down menu. Multiple choice and drop-down questions will present your students with multiple choices to select one correct answer. This would be like a standard multiple choice test. If you choose the checkboxes mode, students can select multiple correct answers. You can also create a linear scale in Google Forms. This is a great way for students to express their voice. Teachers can also label the scale. The multiple choice grid provides students with a question format that involves multiple correct answers, and students choose one correct answer for each row. The student view below demonstrates how this option might be applied. Lastly, the checkbox grid allows for students to choose multiple correct answers. Again, the student view demonstrates how this type of question would present to students using Google Forms. We hope you found the guided learning helpful, and again, I encourage you to go deeper with the independent learning tasks. A reminder that any questions you might have with Google Forms or any Google Apps for Education can be answered in the G Suite Learning Center. There are many training modules for using different Google tools. You can also check out additional training modules available at the Getting Started with Google Apps for Education site. There are many videos and tutorials on Google Apps that may be helpful. There are also many more resources and current online webinar recordings that can be viewed at any time from the TDSB Remote Learning website, www.tdsb.on.ca/remote learning. Also, if you click the Remote Learning Resource Summary bit.ly above, there's more information on TDSB approved digital tools. There's also information for guardians and families on how to access these tools from home. This resource summary document is downloadable and can be shared with your students' families. Lastly, there are many amazing TDSB resources to help support teaching and learning. These resources specifically address remote and blended learning for all of our students. A quick note that all of the icons used in Google Forms are from Icon Finder. And just a reminder that all bit.lys are case sensitive and to make a copy of this slide deck for your own learning and reference. I would like to end off saying thank you on behalf of El Karim and myself, Michael Habermal. Congratulations on challenging yourself to learn a new educational tool. We hope you found this video helpful and continue to use it as a resource. Be well and keep on learning.